Welcome to Faith Over Breakfast. You are listening to a podcast by Pastor Eric Siepen and Pastor Andy Littleton. If you enjoy Faith Over Breakfast, we encourage you to rate it on the Apple Podcast app, on Spotify, or Google Play. Thank you and enjoy the podcast. All right, you've been listening to Faith Over Breakfast with Eric Siepen and Andy Littleton. We are both pastors of churches here in Tucson, Arizona.
Did you just put the intro in the past tense?
I did.
Cool. That's different.
We're in the past tense.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
You're about to listen to, and you've been listening to, all in some weird
You're
world.
assuming that people are listening to multiple episodes
That's
at once.
right.
I like that.
You're just binging. You've been binging Faith Over Breakfast with
That's
Pastor
right.
Andy Littleton and Pastor Eric Siepen.
And this shorter episode is brought to you by the City of Tucson's water main crew, who worked on, patched up, finished, and then redug up and are fixing again the large water main off of Speedway Boulevard and whatever other street that is. Cole, maybe?
Cole. I think it's Cole.
And who keep making me late.
Yep. So since this is a short podcast, we're not going to tell you what it's about, so you can be surprised and enjoy it.
Okay.
And we've got some special thing going on, a little special promotion. So
little promo at the end.
yeah, so
Hang in there.
enjoy, and we will be back hopefully full speed next week.
Hoping so.
All right.
Well, as we've been doing, or as we did last time,
Yes.
we've been talking on the phone while I've been driving, and then here I am. So
Yes, I know exactly how you're doing.
you know how I'm doing. Everyone else, those villagers who like to hear how we're doing. Sorry.
I feel you really knock the poor mission people, but I think they and others really do want to know how Andy is doing.
Do they?
Yes,
Okay.
they do.
Well.
They love their pastor and their Faith Over Breakfast host.
Well, I know at least one of them that listens that would affirm that wholeheartedly.
Good.
So, hi, Brian. How are you? I hope you're having a great day. And I think you would affirm that. Thank you, and I always appreciate it. And and the rest of everyone at Mission, hey, are you there? Hey, are you there?
Yeah. So we've done these tests before, and they just have fallen flat. But hey, mission people, just tell your pastor that you listen and that you love him.
Yeah, and
if you
share
don't, he's going to
share the podcast, give it a 5-star rating.
He's going to be really sad.
Pump up the volume.
It's going to affect his sermons for the next 5 weeks if you don't say.
Do you want more sad sermons, Mission?
Yeah.
Yeah, then don't say anything.
Anyway, welcome to Faith Over Breakfast. You just released a book this week.
I did.
Congratulations on that. What's the title of the book?
What We Do with Jesus.
What We Do with Jesus.
Yeah.
Is there like a byline to that, or
reflections on reflections. What is it from the history of Tucson's Garden of Gethsemane? Reflections on modern faith, based on Tucson's Garden of Gethsemane. I'm missing a word or two, or flipping a couple, but There's a place called the Garden of Gethsemane in Tucson.
Yeah,
and
so
we did an event. We did our Good Friday service there last year. This is a place that I tend to take a stroll with people every once in a while, and stop by, and I like to show people from out of town. And it also, as I was preparing for the Good Friday service last year, I wanted to write a couple little meditations to get people thinking and kind of preparing. I didn't want them to show up and have a history lesson.
Right.
So I wanted to give them some background info. And then I thought, I think there's some interesting stuff in there. I'd like to expand that a little bit, add some photos I took, make kind of a book of reflections. So this is it's not a history book. It has history, but it's more getting you to think about Jesus through the story of this place.
Wow. That's really cool. So let's get this full title, because it's a big title.
The subtitle is
What We Do with Jesus: Reflections on Modern Faith Through the History of Tucson's Garden of Gethsemane.
That's the word I couldn't find.
Yeah. So there it is. It just went out, released, and so maybe you could give us a little synopsis. I mean, you just did, but maybe a little bit more.
Sure.
What people are gonna kind of.
Yeah, and well, I'll tell you what I'm hoping for from the book, because I think that the audience here would be interested in that. So when I was trying to look up this place, the Garden of Gethsemane, the history on it felt very sparse, and also like I was picking up little tidbits in different places. So there's City of Tucson. This is a city run park. And there's a little bit of info there. And then you can find a little more about the artist Felix Lucero elsewhere. He did it. There's another area, Yarnell, Arizona, which is where the Granite Mountain hotshots, the firefighters died, which that it enters into the story. That becomes an interesting kind of overlap story. But Felix Lucero did a group of sculptures out there, and you hear a little bit more about him, and even some mildly contradictory things when you read the history of those two places, or contradictory, or maybe they just don't feel like they align perfectly. And then there's some bloggers who've said some things. Then because of that fire, there were a couple newspaper articles that said some things, but they weren't compiled. It was really hard to kind of get a picture of who was this guy. And I assume that that there's a lot of info I couldn't find, just to be honest, because he did live around here for a long time. Maybe there's a family member out there I don't know about. So I didn't feel like I could write a history, nor that was my role.
Right.
But his story evokes a lot of questions for me. And the story of that place and that garden and that fire evoke a lot of questions. And I thought, I would love to just pose those questions and get people thinking about Jesus in this way. So some of the questions are, there's a lot of celebration that some of his statues survived the fire in Yarnell, but the humans did not. The people did not.
Oh, wow.
You know, what do we do with a Jesus who we might perceive as not having come through for us, right? And then the Garden of Gethsemane is always getting vandalized, but then it's always getting restored. And kind of what's behind those impulses? Like, why are we so prone to deface and vandalize religious art? But then why do we feel this deep need to preserve it as well? And then he lived under the bridge. This was, most of it, he was a tent dweller under the bridge. And so there's like modern progress comes in and changes this whole area. And they're, just the modern world grew up around this place that would have been a lot more quiet back when he lived there. And what does it mean for us to kind of try to keep Jesus around in the modern world? And questions. And I wanted people to think it through. And also, I was kind of hoping that this would be a bridge, that I was hoping this would be a piece that maybe anyone who Googled this garden who can't really find the whole story like I did might find a little more of it compiled along with some thought-provoking stuff.
In your book, yeah, that's really cool. So this is your third kind of attempt to write a book.
Yeah.
You've written one other on your own, and then you co-wrote. What's the one that you co-wrote? Part-time
Pastoring, which it's about bivocationalism. Part-time isn't like the right word for it, but it's the common word in certain circles.
Yeah, so, and it grabs people's attention.
Yeah.
Like part-time pastoring kind of, it has a ring to it.
Yep.
So you like writing?
I do.
Has this been something you've always enjoyed doing, or is this something you started in your adult life?
It's something I've always liked doing, and I've never really learned how.
Okay.
And I didn't even realize I like to process my thoughts in writing. Some key memories are like when I was a senior in high school, I remember my teacher would give us free writing time of about 10 minutes, and I would usually come up with 3 or 4 pages, and there'd be a whole narrative, like a story. It'd be funny or interesting that would come out of that. And my best friend in high school hated that time. He was like, I don't know what to put on this page. And it was like torture to me. It was the best part of my day. And so that's something that is a little bit of a hint. But then I read, my mom kept this little notebook of my stuff from when I was a kid. And I found this thing I wrote as a kid about how much I loved to write. And I didn't even know, it went back that far. So yeah, I do. But as many of you know, I didn't go to college. I got out of high school and went into a trade, into car audio, and so I didn't really I would say the first time my writing was ever invested in was that that senior year. That teacher actually saw something in me, challenged me, even kind of critiqued me for not trying harder, which I responded to fairly well. But that was the first time I think anybody ever really called it out of me. And then it kind of died for a while after that. Actually significantly just went on the shelf to where I didn't have time. And I think I felt like but I didn't know how. So I didn't do it. Yeah. And then the memoir about my dad, the little man that we've talked about on here.
Yeah. And given away.
And we've given away. I think that moment of grief and the need to process it opened the door for me to write, because I didn't care if anybody liked it. And I didn't care if I did it right. I just needed to do it.
Yeah.
And so that changed things, because and then to write it and go, because I just read it myself and I thought, I don't know what technical good writing is, but I like this story.
That's cool. So,
so
that first one, did it go through an editing process? Did you have an editor for it?
So of the three, only one has, and it's Part-Time Pastoring, went through an official editor.
What was that experience like?
Well, because I co-wrote it, my co-writer knew the editor and applied the edits. And so I don't know.
You don't know.
So the other two, I utilized just friends.
Okay.
Friends and family. So my mom is capable, and Caleb Sommitz was an editor for The Little Man.
He's a good writer too.
Yeah, and he gave me some really, really helpful, caught a lot of silly stuff and gave me some helpful insights, and several other people. So I've kind of done like a think tank editing.
Yeah. And is that experience like enjoyable? I mean, it's like some people like their stuff being edited and reworking it. Others, it's just like you're messing with their art and it's really hard.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. I don't think I feel that you're messing with my art stuff. I've gotten some suggested edits that I read it and go, no, like that's not what I was trying to say.
Right.
Or that maybe that's grammatically correct, but it doesn't flow. Like I like cadence.
Right.
There's a bit of
your speaker self,
rapper or country music in me that I want it to.
I don't even know why I do a podcast with you. You put those two words in the same sentence.
They belong together, man. Watch Ken Burns' country music. You'll see. It's they have more in common than you think.
Oh, I know. And just
like simple music of the regular folk.
Yeah,
is what that, like when I say country music and hip hop.
Yeah,
I'm saying street level.
Yeah.
Street level literature.
The people, yeah, gotcha.
The people.
And so you like your books to have a little bit of that edge to them.
I like when you read it for it almost to have a cadence,
cool.
And for you to feel the swell of a sentence come up and down.
Yeah.
And if that gets messed up, it bothers me. So I will sacrifice great grammar or even great linguistics for it to flow through your mind naturally, the way people talk. That's important to me. That's just how I want to write. I like to read things that flow. When I have to re-examine something because it didn't flow for me as a reader, that disrupts my reading experience.
Gotcha.
I think some people like that when they go, that was such a complicated sentence, I have to read it again. For me,
you don't want that.
I want to feel like I'm being spoken to.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so wow. So here's the thing. If you're really interested in this book, you can go on Amazon, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's on Amazon.
And we'll put a link to the Amazon page. But we'll give 5 books away.
Okay.
And but same rules as we always do for books. We want subjects. We've been doing this podcast for a very long time. And so if you got a question for us, or if you're like, hey, you never addressed the question that I wrote to you, then send it in with your address. You need to be in the United States. we will send you a copy of the book.
There you go.
First 5 people to email us. Let's say if you've already been part of a book distribution, go out and buy the book. Otherwise, we're looking to hear from fans who have never, ever emailed us.
There you go.
And asked us a question. So it's faithoverbreakfast@gmail.com. And we're looking for those wonderful things.
Yeah. I like it. Thank you. And as I mentioned before, the sad reality here is this is a very short podcast because of my traffic situation.
Yes. So there's a if you don't live in Tucson, there was a water main issue on one of the main thoroughfares of Tucson in particular.
Happens to be right next to my daughter's school.
Yeah. So we're this is called, I guess it's the abbreviated podcast due to traffic.
Yeah, due to traffic. So that's why Eric and I talk on the phone before I get here so we feel like we're connected and warmed up, and then we just got to get one thing across. But we'll be back to
we'll get back to. But I'm really excited about your book.
Thank you.
And I hope to. I'll send in a question so I can get a copy of the book.
All right.
Eric,
I think I can give you one.
I think these books will be signed.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Sure.
Can we have them signed by you?
Sure.
Like your other ones were.
Yeah, I can do that.
I really admire you that you're able to write books. I mean, for the last 10 years, people have been telling me, "Oh, Eric, you need to write a book on this. You need to write a book on that." I can't. I mean, I have such a severe learning disability. I mean, I suppose I could hire someone to come in and, ghostwrite a book for me.
Right.
But even that would be a project in which I would have to create a lot of time for. I can't just sit down and bang out a chapter. That's not my thing. So I wish I could. I would like to have some books that express my ideas.
They'd be very good books.
I think they would too.
They'd be excellent.
But they're just going to be in Jesus's head because he knows what those books are about.
Maybe Susan Seepin writes them.
Yeah, Susan, she writes a mean book. It's a good book, but it takes a lot of work for her to do because she's a superb technical writer, and and a very good editor.
So she probably the technical stuff is there, but maybe it doesn't flow fast. Is what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, she's got to put the time into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, thank goodness that people do that.
Yeah.
Everything I write would be frustrating if a couple slower folks weren't helping me. And with their help, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's passable. I hope you feel like you're being spoken to. But yeah.
Yeah. So, it snowed yesterday.
Yeah. Tucson had some little snow flurries. I saw nothing on the ground, but I saw a little in the air.
Yeah,
that's exciting for Tucson.
I saw it in my wife's hair because we stood out in it. It'll land in your hair and not melt right away. So,
yeah. Amazing.
That's pretty cool. God's pretty cool that way.
Yeah, we in Tucson these are the things we get pumped for, and it's great. We should. It's exciting. The mountains looked incredible right after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we go, how much time do you got, do you think?
1 minute.
You got 1 minute? Okay, well then we will not ask this big question until next week.
Sweet.
But yeah. Andy, thanks for this really short, quick podcast. I appreciate it.
Thanks for
a little book plug.
Thanks for helping me with a book plug because though I do take time to write things, I don't take much time to promote them.
Yeah, yeah. As you might note, his second book was Part-Time Pastoring, which means he runs 17 other businesses. No. One of them is publishing books.
Not 17. I enjoy variety. Let's say it that way.
It feels probably sometimes like 17.
Sure.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. Variety. That's the word. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Faith Over Breakfast with Pastor Eric Seepin and Pastor Andy Littleton. Please share us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you.